Trump to announce the attempt to tie him to Russia interference in the election campaign had failed. He just keeps rolling with the punches. If you're a fan of the president and you want to show your support, you might want to celebrate the news with one of these solid silver or pure gold President Trump Freedom Coins. Go to TrumpCoin2020.com and also make sure to use the code X22 to save $5 off per silver coin, and use the code X22 with gold at the end to save $100 off the gold coin. To get these coins, don't forget to click the link below and use the code X22. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the central banks, they were trying to bring down the economy. They were planning to bring this down in the year 2020, right before the elections. Q told us this in Post 2575. Q said in December 10th, 2018, the plan to have the Fed raise rates, this is in brackets in bold, steep incline beginning March 2019, in an effort to kill the economy prior to 2020 presidential election is known and planned for. Structure change coming, with a question mark. Q. We know that the Patriots have stopped the Federal Reserve from raising rates in 2019, which means the plan to have the Fed raise rates in 2019, starting in March, has failed. So does this mean the deep state, the central banks, have given up on the plan to blame Trump for when the economy comes down? No. They still think it's coming down during election time. If you step back for a second, you can see that their plan is still moving forward. They don't realize that they are no longer in control. It's almost like the Mueller report. When Brennan was out there saying, oh, you're going to see these new indictments, your children are going to be indicted, they're going to be throwing you into jail. And then it came out, the summary came out, that there was no collusion, there was no obstruction. And Brennan said, well, I must have gotten bad information. What they're working under right now is old intel. Remember, their plan was to bring down the economy right before the election. Their plan was to link the economy with Trump. This way they can make the case that, look, he said he owned the stock market. Look, he said he owned the economy. It is his. And the economy failed. The problem is that the plan has changed. They just don't know it. They don't realize that everything they were hoping to do has been stopped. But they're continuing on. They're not stopping with their narrative. And we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. But first, I wanted to talk about what is really happening in the economy. And we've been following the economy for quite a while. And when I talk about the economy, I'm talking about the people's economy. I'm not talking about the numbers that Trump recites. I'm not talking about the numbers the mainstream media recites. I'm talking about what is really happening here. And this economy has been failing for a very long time. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the central bankers. This economy was never meant to last this long. And we're seeing firsthand what happens to a central bank economy when it completely implodes on itself. If you remove all stimulus and remove everything the central bankers have done and just let the economy do what it's supposed to do in a free market, the whole thing would collapse on itself. I mean, there's no question about that. If the central bank wasn't out there manipulating the stock market, manipulating the creation of currency, manipulating the interest rates, and the free market allowed, and I should say the manipulation of gold and silver, and the free market was allowed to do what it normally does, adjust to what it should be, the entire system would fall apart. Companies would go under. Now, many people might say, well, that's a good thing. They saved all the companies. Well, actually, no, because in the long run, you're just preventing the inevitable. And as you go on preventing it over time, it gets worse and worse and worse. And before you know it, instead of a small disaster, you have a gigantic disaster. And that's where we're headed right now, a gigantic disaster. So when I'm talking about these numbers, when I talk about what is going on in the economy, it's so you can be prepared for this transition. Remember, the deep state, the central banks, they're planning on bringing the system down. They want this thing to crash. They want to blame it on Trump. Now, if Trump wasn't there, and let's say Clinton was there, they would have just used an event to explain why the economy was going to crash. They need the economy to crash because their system can't last. They need to cover it up one way or another. But Trump, the Patriots, they are building a new system, and there's going to be structure change in the Fed. Actually, I believe the Fed's going to be taken over. I believe the Fed is going to be audited, and it's going to be presented to the world, just like the D class. The D class is going to be presented to the world at the right moment. At the right moment, Trump is going to present an audit to the people. Complete transparency. This is what these individuals have been doing to our country. And people, at this point, they're going to be very, very angry. So let's look at some of the data that's coming out. ADP, they just reported, and they said we've added 129,000 jobs in March, well below the expected 175,000, and only just above the 125,000 lowest estimate of analysts. This is the weakest growth in employment since September 2017. Now, under the hood, small businesses shrank their employee base. Construction jobs lost about 6,000 jobs. Small businesses between 1 and 19 employees, they lost about 9,000 people. And when you go down the list, you can see that there are different sectors that are losing jobs. And this is to be expected with a central bank system that is deteriorating and falling apart. They can manipulate the numbers just so far before these numbers really don't make any sense anymore. I mean, look at the automobile industry. Now, we've been covering this for quite a while. We talked about channel stuffing, where dealerships, they receive cars, those are counted as sales, and they stuff the lots to capacity. And the manufacturers look like they're manufacturing. When the cars are delivered to the lots, it looks like sales. And then they give them discounts to the people who are buying them. And it looks like the automobile industry is doing fantastically, but it's not. When we look at auto sales, we see that the first quarter is absolutely horrible. General Motors saw deliveries drop by 7%. Fiat Chrysler, their sales fell by 7.3%. Toyota sales fell by 3.5%. Nissan sales fell by 5.3%. Ford, their sales fell by 5%. Honda, 4.3%. Now, it's not because of Trump. It's not because of the tariffs. We've been following this, and there's a reason why we've been following this, so we can understand what is happening. We're still on the same trajectory of where we were back with Obama. Nothing's really changed. What has changed is that Trump is deregulating. Trump is making deals with manufacturers and businesses, trying to bring back everything the deep state, the central banks have been pushing away. That's the big difference, because Trump and the Patriots, they know they need to create a system for the people, because they realize we're not going to have a war. The system is collapsing. The central bank is exposed, and we need to transition into something else that does not include the private Western Central Bank. It's going to be a controlled people's central bank, which means we're going to create our currency on our own without interest attached. I mean, we can push a button the same as the Federal Reserve. There's really no difference there. And their managing of the economy means manipulating of the economy. When they talk about, well, who's going to manage the economy? Well, are they really managing it, or are they manipulating it? They're controlling interest rates. They're manipulating the stock market. They're manipulating where the money flows to. They're not really managing it. They're protecting it so they're not exposed. That's all they're doing. And we can do the same. The founding fathers in the Constitution, they never said, hey, bring in a private Western Central Bank to manage your economy. That was created by the central bank, then brainwashed all of us into thinking debt is fantastic. Now, we know that Trump has controlled the Fed to stop raising interest rates. They're not raising rates in 2019. And what we're seeing is that interest rates, they are either steady or in some cases, mortgage rates are starting to dip down a little bit. And what we're seeing right now is that mortgage refinancing, it is soaring right now because people are taking advantage of this because the rates were going up before and some people locked in at a higher rate. Now now they see the rates coming down, so they're trying to lock in at a lower rate. So when we look at refinancing, we can see that has exploded to 38.5%. This is the biggest weekly jump since February of 2015. This is going to help the American person because instead of having a little bit higher rate, they're going to have a lower rate, which will make it a little bit easier for them to pay their mortgage. Now, again, is this going to last forever? No. Because what's going to happen later on, those people who bought their homes at the height of the market, just like we saw back in 2006, 2007, 2008, those individuals that bought their homes at the height of the market, well, the prices of homes are going to start to come down. We're already starting to see it in Australia, Canada, England, United States, and around the world, Europe, around the world, we're starting to see this. This is just not a one-off thing. It's a trend. The same thing with automobile sales declining. It is a trend. We're seeing it all over the place. Now, we talked about how the deep state, the central bankers, they are pushing to destroy the economy. They need to do this because this is one of their chances of getting Trump out of office because they're tying the economy to him. We showed a video clip of CNN talking about this, showing how the economy is now tied to him. They're building the narrative. And we know that Trump, the Patriots, they've stopped the interest rates from rising. We know they're using China right now to stimulate the economy, the same as the Fed would be doing. And they're holding the economy steady. Now, what's very interesting is that the IMF is out there, and this is coming out of the Washington Post. And they're saying, well, look, and they're trying to spin this around. They're trying to paint the picture that it's going to be Trump who's going to bring down the economy. The title of the article is Trump's Trade War Could Deepen the Global Slowdown, IMF warns. Now, here's a portion of what she said. The International Monetary Fund calls this a delicate moment for the global economy, as many countries are in the midst of a slowdown. Resolving President Trump's trade war and Brexit could go a long way toward preventing a deeper slowdown, the IMF said. Lagarde said growth has been slowing largely because of trade tensions and financial tightening last year, but she went on to say that the U.S. Federal Reserve has reversed course in a way that will benefit the world economy. The Fed no longer plans any interest rate increases this year, and it is ending the asset reduction, which Trump and Wall Street wanted. That leaves Trump's tariffs and Brexit as the major factors weighing on the world economy, the IMF said. Now think about what they're doing here. They're making it seem like the Fed went ahead and they didn't raise interest rates because they realized what was happening in the economy. So they decided to stop it. Now, if you remember back, the IMF was actually out there telling the Federal Reserve, listen, you shouldn't raise interest rates. This is going to hurt the economy. And then all of a sudden they changed their tune and said, okay, it's a good thing that the Fed is raising the rates because they got the memo that they were planning on bringing down the system. So the IMF was on board. The ECB was going to raise interest rates following in the Fed's footsteps, which would bring the world economy down. And of course, all of this was going to be done to blame it on something else, most likely Trump. So what did they do right now? The Patriots told the Fed, listen, do not raise interest rates. I mean, if we go back to post 2575, this is what Q said, that they're going to control this. It has already been planned for. So the Patriots stopped the Fed from raising rates. Now the IMF is trying to make the case, and the Washington Post is out there trying to make the case that that's all that's left is Trump and his tariffs. Now, we talked about tariffs before. Tariffs do absolutely nothing. It's not what they're telling you. It's not that, oh, the prices are going to rise, because the tariff percentage is on the first sale. And usually that's with a middleman. That's when the products are the cheapest. So most likely in that scenario, Americans won't even notice a change. And the tariffs are not going to bring down the economy. They're building this up because they still think they're on the same plan, that the economy is going to be coming down in 2020. Europe might fail during 2020. They might see problems like we've never seen before. Trump, through manipulation, using all the tools against the central bank and the deep state, he will keep America strong. Well, looking strong. Look, the numbers looking fantastic. So the United States will stand tall, and Europe might be failing. We might see the emerging markets failing. But the United States is going to stand tall. He has the magic wand. He has the ability to manipulate. Does this mean the economy is going to stay the way it is? No. They're planning on a change. The change is going to come after the elections. The change is going to be when the deep state and the central banks don't get their way. What's going to happen is they're going to be shocked and surprised, just like with the Mueller report, that, wait a minute, what just happened here? Why is there a structure change in the Fed? Why are we auditing the Fed? Why is this all being exposed? And they won't be able to stop this. They won't be able to stop any of this. And of course, just like Brennan, well, we might have got bad information. Yeah, they got bad information. They thought the economy was going to come down. The central bank, the IMF, and the rest thought they were going to blame all of this on Trump, and they would never see him again. He'd be booted out, and that would be that. Of course, after that, they'd probably go after him and do whatever. But you can see they still think that they're on the same plan. And they're building the narrative right now saying the only thing that's left is Trump's tariffs. But they're going to be shocked and surprised when 2020 comes and the economy doesn't fall apart. They're going to be shocked and surprised when the economy falls apart after the elections. They're going to be shocked and surprised when Trump exposes the Fed through an audit to show this is why the economy fell apart. A central bank system does not benefit the American people. The Mueller report was fake, phony, and false. The Fed is fake, phony, and false. The mainstream media is fake, phony, and false. All of this will be exposed at the right time. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.